Well, April 2nd Direct has come and gone, and there was a lot that was talked about in today's Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. Not a whole lot that I think everyone was expecting. Definitely some stuff people were not expecting. But regardless, there were a decent amount to talk about. So let's talk about it now. I will say first off, they opened with a brand new. I don't know if this is just for this or what, but it was a brand new Nintendo Direct like intro kind of thing. It was very adorable and I very much liked it. It kind of helped signify the beginning of a brand new generation. And then from there we got our first official look at Mario Kart World, the name of the new Mario Kart game that is going to be launching with Nintendo Switch 2. So this is a very unique take on Mario Kart. It's got pretty much any and every character that you could probably think of from Mario Kart. They're just there. There's a decent amount of car customization as well, and you can get unique little costumes depending on what you come across throughout the game. There are different modes as well. So Grand Prix are back just in their natural little fashion. You've got these more unique tracks because it's a brand new game. You're gonna have a bunch of new tracks, and so that bar is pretty much unchanged. What's really interesting about this is the knockout tour, which is essentially an elimination mode. You start out with 24 racers, and as you go through each checkpoint, your number starts to decrease, and so you want to be the last one standing in order to progress, which has never been done for Mario Kart before, at least in any genuine capacity from my knowledge, but I think that's a really cool way to help distinct this one from everything else. In addition to that, you can also free roam across, several different little hub worlds, and you can ride on rails, you can drive on walls, you can just kind of drive underwater, and this is going to be a launch title with Nintendo Switch 2, so you can play it day one. I sure hope to, but there is a dedicated direct for Mario Kart World on April 17th. So if you just want a little bit more information and maybe a little bit more detail into things, they will have that for you on April 17th. Next up, we got an introduction of the Joy-Con 2 and the famous C button. What is the C button? That's a great question. They showed off a way to kind of integrate voice chat and, just voice communication, sharing your screen, all of that within the Nintendo Switch 2 software, so you don't have to use a third-party app like Discord or even Zoom if you're that type of person to play your games with friends. And I think that's really interesting because, you wouldn't expect that from Nintendo. They didn't do that at all really last generation. They had a smartphone app where you could talk to people, and that was it. But now this time around, they have a built-in microphone on the system itself, so even if you're in handheld, you can talk to your friends. There is a Nintendo Switch 2 camera that you can purchase and connect to the system through the top USB-C port to in order to have your face be visible, and also use that for specific Nintendo Switch 2 games. We'll get there. And with that, you can share your screen with your friends and they can share theirs back with you. Theirs looks a little rough just because it's being streamed through probably Wi-Fi, but it just looks a little rough. I don't know how much people are going to be utilizing it, but that's always a neat thing to have. And that feature is called Game Chat. Now, for the first probably a little less than a year of the Switch 2's life, it will be free to all, but beginning April 1st, 2026, it will be required for you to have a Nintendo Switch Online membership in order to use the feature. They also showed off this really interesting thing called Game Share, where essentially you can have one person have one game, and if it's a 4-player multiplayer game, you can share those with your friends, all within this little game chat thing. It's very interesting, and only a handful of games so far are supporting it. But that's really interesting that that's happening. One of the bigger ones that they showed off was Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics and Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. I am also noticing Mario Odyssey is on this list. I don't know how that's going to work because that is definitely not a multiplayer game, but who knows? Maybe that will be something to come in the future. They also showed off a little bit of the internal features with this thing. The screen is now a 7.9 inch screen, which is a lot bigger than the Switch's 6.2 inch screen. Now the Switch 2 is still an LCD screen, it does not have an OLED, but with that they kind of up the ante on everything with this screen. It's 1080p, it can play at 120 frames per second, it has HDR compatibility, and it's all in the same little box, essentially, that the Switch was. It's not too much thicker. The new Joy-Con have a magnetic connection that can, connect to your system, and they don't seem to go anywhere unless you hit that release button. They also increased the size of the SL and SR buttons, which I am very glad about. They also did show off a little bit about mouse mode, which essentially just has a little pointer there, and you can kind of glide it around your desk or a surface or wherever you have the ability to mouse mode, which is pretty cool. And this part I thought was very interesting as well. The original Switch had 32 gigabytes of internal space. The Switch 2 has 8 times that at 256 gigabytes. Now, I know we're in a day and age where a lot of systems have a terabyte, maybe 2, because games are so big that 500 gigabytes is not big enough to hold like 3 games. But for Nintendo, having 256 is a far cry from 32, and so I am very glad about that. They also said that there were faster load times, quicker response times, everything. The dock can output to 4K, which is awesome. Now the dock may be a little bit louder and a little bit thicker than the first one. That is because there is a fan inside of the dock, so that way more airflow can go into your system and keep it cool and keep it from overheating. Now the next game they showed off was Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, which the fact that they're charging money for this is very interesting, but I would assume it's going to be like $20 at the max. There's no way it's going to be a full price game. And if it is, that's a whole other issue. But it just seems to be a little informational thing, getting to know your Nintendo Switch 2. Why this isn't a pack-in game, I really don't know. But it's a neat little thing to have, especially if you're someone who, sees all these new things and like, that is way overwhelming. I don't understand what a lot of this means. They have examples of things, they have little informational guides, everything to really get you to know your new system. And that is releasing the same day as Nintendo Switch 2 as a paid digital only game. A new Pro Controller was announced for Nintendo Switch 2, which looks really clean and quite nice. I really like the Nintendo Switch Pro Controller. I have no doubt in my mind that this will be just as good. There is also a C button for that. There is an audio jack in the controller, which is great. There are also programmable back buttons. And then at this point, they reveal the release date of the system, which is June 5th. That is a Thursday. And if you wanted more information about pricing or pre-orders, that is all you got from the Direct. Don't worry, we do have that. However, it was not shown off here. They talked a little bit more about the Nintendo Switch 2 Edition games. These are Nintendo Switch games that not only get a performance boost, a graphical boost, but in some cases also new content entirely. The first one that they showed off was Super Mario Party Jamboree plus Jamboree TV, which is essentially just an upgrade, like an expanded part of Mario Party Jamboree, which is already a pretty big game as it is. And it's so unique how they have these kind of things. They have the camera integration in there. They have the mouse mode integration in there to where you can really make use of everything that is coming out for the Switch 2. And the Nintendo Switch 2 edition of Super Mario Party Jamboree releases July 24th. Now they did say that if you have a physical Nintendo Switch version, you can buy the upgrade pack to get the the extra stuff for a discounted price. However, you know me, if there's a Nintendo Switch 2 physical version of the game, I will be purchasing that. They showed off more Nintendo Switch 2 edition games, especially from the first parties, the next which being Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Now, I didn't know if Breath of the Wild really needed it just because it's you know, coming on 10 years old. Did it really need a boost? But seeing this game in 60 frames per second, it really is like, okay, yeah, all right, that's worth it. And seeing Tears of the Kingdom actually be able to perform as well is just remarkable. Like, that game looked rough at points on Switch, so to see it actually work out pretty well on Switch 2 is great. And with making use of that HDR, all these games are going to look so good. There's also the new edition of Zelda Notes, which kind of just helps you track your journey and maybe even help you figure out where things are along the way, which might actually be pretty useful. But the fact that they kind of added Google Maps into the into the map it's kind of funny. Also getting the Nintendo Switch 2 upgrade is Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Again, graphical upgrade, frame rate boost, but also a new expanded thing called Star-Crossed World. Now this kind of gives me New Game Plus energy, just because when they had this teased a little bit, it was starting out to be in like the first little level that you journeyed upon. So I wonder if you like hit new game and then you kind of start playing the game as normal, and then you just see that, and then you get on a whole new journey from there. That'll be very interesting. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is also getting the upgrade, using mouse mode as a way to control the game, making it more like a PC first-person shooter, which is honestly really cool. I don't know if that's the way I'll be playing it, but I think that's neat for the people who do. And just like everything else this generation, Metroid Prime 4 does have two different graphic modes. There's the quality mode, which still runs at 4K 60 FPS with HDR, or a performance mode where it bumps it down to 1080p, but you get 120 frames per second. Now that is on docked mode. In handheld, the quality mode is 1080p at 60 frames per second, and for performance, it's 720p at 120 frames per second. But Metroid Prime 4 is not the only one getting a simultaneous Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2 release. Pokemon Legends EA is also getting it. And again, just like Mario Party Jamboree, these will all have physical and digital versions available. So you can play both versions, just one version. You can upgrade your Switch 1 version to Switch 2 digitally. Whatever you want to do, they just want to make sure that you play the game. I'm a little worried that maybe these upgrades are kind of getting in the way of new releases, just because, you know, you've got Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom on the same day. You've got Mario Party Jamboree in July. You've got Kirby in August, and then Metroid Prime 4 and Pokemon whenever those release. Next up was a game that kind of utilized the mouse mode controls. This is Drag X Drive, Drag and Drive, whatever it is. It's a 3-on-3 wheelchair basketball game. It kind of gives me like Rocket League vibes, but it's, you know, entirely motion based because you have the mouse mode. You foo foo, and then you foo with that's how you shoot, and you can do little tricks and get more points based off of that. It could be interesting. Release this summer. It doesn't say a specific date, but that's all right. So my guess is probably like September. A huge heap of third-party games getting showcased on Switch 2, the first of which being Elden Ring, which I did not expect that. I think a lot of people were like, oh yeah, that would be funny, but it actually looks halfway decent on Switch 2. I'm excited for that to come out. Street Fighter 6 is also making its way to the system, with new amiibo coming out for Luke, Jamie, and Kimberly. I want those amiibo. I don't even care about Street Fighter that much, but I've been on an amiibo frenzy lately, so of course I have to participate. Split Fiction is coming to Switch 2, and I am so happy about that. I have a review for that game coming out hopefully here shortly, assuming that there's no more huge information on this that takes my time, but I love Split Fiction. It is such a fun time with a friend, and it feels at home on Nintendo. So seeing that it's actually coming and it's going to look as good as it does is really great. Everyone saw that Square Enix logo and got really excited, thinking, oh boy, Final Fantasy VII Remake is coming, and then they saw Bravely Default and they were like, oh, okay. but Bravely Default Flying Fairy HD Remaster. There you go. Next up, we got a brand new trailer for a brand new Warriors game. This is a third Hyrule Warriors game, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, which kind of sets as a precursor to Tears of the Kingdom, where you play as Zelda amongst other people who have made their way into the past. It's coming this winter, no confirmed release date yet. I would guess probably December or maybe even January of next year. Next up, they talked about Nintendo Switch Online. So first off, you can use Nintendo Switch Online on Nintendo Switch 2. That's great. But if you were an expansion pack member, you now have access to Nintendo GameCube games only on Switch 2, not on Switch 1. At launch, you will have access to The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, Soul Calibur 2 with the Link costume, and F-Zero GX, all of which upscaled, looking as good as they could be for GameCube games. You can also play online with friends. It's weird that they only showed 3 on this at launch. I mean, even the Nintendo 64 had like 8 or 9. But these are bigger games, so I kind of understand that. They also showed more titles being added later on, and this is where things get really, really interesting. So we have Super Mario Sunshine, that's a given. Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, that's really cool because that game is also very, very, very expensive. So seeing it being able to be played by people in a grander way is awesome. Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, again, not a super common game. People love that game, so that's really cool. The first Mario Strikers coming is quite the addition. You know, seeing people be like, "Oh, Battle League wasn't great. Let's go back to this first one." Well, here it is. And then, Chibi Robo. Chibi Robo being available. Nintendo even putting Chibi Robo in anything is so great. It's so unheard of nowadays. It makes my heart happy seeing this little guy come back and be able to be played by more people. I know I will be playing through the entirety of that game as soon as it becomes available on there, because again, that is a very expensive game. And to round it out, the first Luigi's Mansion and Pokemon Coliseum, which is neat. They're also making a GameCube Nintendo Switch 2 controller, available only for Nintendo Switch Online members, just like all the others. So it might be 3 years before someone can get their hands on it. I don't know. Except they showed more third-party stuff. Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4 are coming, in addition to the first 2. Does that mean Deltarune is now complete? I don't know, but more Deltarune is great for fans of that series. NBA 2K is coming back to the system. I'm pretty sure it has been throughout most of its life, if not all of its life, but also WWE 2K is coming back. After how 2K18 performed on Switch, I think it was fair for them to be like, yeah, we're not gonna touch that again. But now that they have more horsepower, why not give it another try? So this random little game, Survival Kids, got shown off, and it seems pretty alright. What I think threw a lot of people off was the fact that for a lot of people the stream froze at this point, and so all you heard was audio. You did not really see anything else, and so you were just stuck watching a little thing on Survival Kids, and a lot of people were freaking out because they were missing stuff. So that wasn't great. But what exactly did they miss? Enter the Gungeon 2. A new Astroneer game called Star Seeker. Cyberpunk 2077 is coming to Nintendo Switch 2. What do you mean? If you would ask me 10 third-party games that I think would have been coming to Switch 2, Cyberpunk would have been the furthest one down on the list, just because of how not well it performed on PS4 and Xbox One, at least at launch. But now, it actually looks halfway decent. They've really optimized everything pretty well. And so seeing that this game is coming to Switch too is a feat in and of itself. And of course, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade will be coming to Nintendo Switch 2, which is really, really, really cool. They also showed a little bit of Hollow Knight Silksong. No information about that, but that was pretty neat. We also got a little bit more on Professor Layton and the New World of Steam. Now, we haven't really gotten anything since its reveal back in what, 2023-ish? So seeing anything new come from that is pretty cool. And then they showed off their last little third-party, or I guess developing partner, as they called it, announcement, a new FromSoft game, which looked quite visually interesting. Not necessarily, at least from me, not necessarily distinct from everything else that they've done, but still, you know, fairly cool at what it's trying to do. The Dusk Bloods is going to be exclusively on Nintendo Switch 2 next year. That's pretty neat. And then they said, okay, we got a couple more first-party games to show off. And so you see a little star floating around, and you didn't really know what it was. And you know me, as soon as I was like, oh, star, it's probably Kirby. And sure enough, that little pink puffball made its way back. And then the star gets an engine, and you're like, oh, okay. And I was like, wow, this game looks so good. Is this going to be a new 3D Kirby? And then all of these people also start coming along with like little box cars and one-wheeled motorcycles. And then you see Kirby Air Riders. What do you mean? This is an old GameCube game but it's coming back for Switch 2, directed by Masahiro Sakurai. Now it is coming out this year, so we hopefully will not have to wait too much longer to get new information on that. And the final announcement was a new 3D Donkey Kong game, which I think people weren't really expecting. I think everyone wanted a new 3D Mario game, which, I mean, yeah, I would have wanted one too. But I'm honestly kind of happy seeing this. This takes things really in a really unique direction. Having Donkey Kong here in general is a little bit different than, you know, just plain old Mario. He can do so many unique things, including like shift the ground a little bit. He can tear up parts of the ground. He can throw them places. He can climb up rocks and mountains. He's got a little purple buddy with him. It's cute. Can ride carts. There's even like a little part where he's in like his little 2D space. He wears pants, which is a little weird, but I think I can forgive it. It's called Donkey Kong Bonanza, and it releases July 17th. But that was pretty much everything announced at the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. They did showcase the different SKUs that they were going to have, being a model and then a model with Mario Kart World. They're both the same model. There's no kind of new coloration or anything. I think for what they were trying to do, introduce a new generation, this Direct was pretty solid. It had a decent amount of first-party games, loads of third-party games, a lot of which people were not expecting at all. And then you have, you know, information about the system, new details on things that are coming to it, and when it's coming out, June 5th. We are just a little over 2 months away, fellas. We're almost there. Now, they did not say the price or when you can pre-order it officially. However, if you look on Nintendo's website, it does say it retails for $450 for the standard edition, and then $500 for the edition with Mario Kart World, which is a pretty decent deal, all things considering, because Mario Kart World is going to be releasing at $80. For what all they have there, I think it's probably a fair price. I think as long as it just doesn't become a consistent thing and they kind of keep things at 70 or maybe even 60, as long as they kind of keep things from going a little too crazy, I think it should be fine. And that was everything from the Nintendo Direct. But of course, we want to know, what were your thoughts on the presentation? Was there anything missing out that maybe you wanted to see, or was there something that you weren't expecting to see at all? Head on over to the comments section and let us know your thoughts. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date on all things Oops All Games and Fox, Illinois.